Welcome to Excel course by Besant Technologies. In this video, you learn everything from basics to advanced features, including formulas, functions, charts, pivot tables, data analysis, dashboards. Whether you are a student, job seeker, working professionals, or business owner, this course will help you to improve your productivity and make smarter divine decisions. What is an Excel? Microsoft Excel is a powerful spreadsheet software that helps you to organize data, perform calculations, data informations, and create professional reports and dashboards. It is widely used by educational institutions, business, and organizations across the world for data management and decision making. Start your Excel journey with Besant Technologies. Let's get started.
Hello, all. Very good morning. Welcome to another session on Excel. We are going to see module 7, which is all about pivot tables and charts and pivot charts. Okay, so first of all, what is a pivot chart? Or let me say, pivot chart is a secondary thing. Okay, what is a pivot table? Now, suppose we have a very massive amount of data. Say, I have picked up for our today's topic, I have picked up the Tableau public sample data set, which is your sample superstore. And it has got almost near up to 10,000 records. Now, here you say, suppose we are being asked, now let me just go through the data, what is it even containing, and then I'll come to the portion how you can use a pivot table to summarize such large data sets, because pivot tables are nothing but summarization tools. They just make the whole analysis very much easy. Okay, what is it? How are you going to use it? We'll get clear. It will be very much clear in a few moments. And before that, as I told you, I have taken up the sample superstore data set, the very famous Tableau public sample data set. It has got around, as I told you, around 10,000 records are there. But to be more precise, 955, 9995 records are there. And it's been set up in the US country across the 4 regions of US. Okay, and you have got all details about orders that were raised during a period from 2016 to 2019, 4 years. Okay, so all the orders that were raised during this 4 years time, that has been, you can see here the order ID, the date on which it was raised, when that product was shipped, what was the shipment mode, which customer has raised, as in his customer ID, then the name of the customer, which segment the customer belongs. Then those are all your customer details and the order details. But moving on, we will see all your geographical related data. As in I told you, this superstore data is set up in the US region, 4 regions of US. So you will see country, then in country, the 4 regions, then come your states, like for each region, the states. Okay, and for each state, how many cities are there? So we can see over there a good lot of, and of course you have your postal code also. So these 5 are your geographical data, which in general we'll be using to um, plot maps, because maps, they are nothing but maps are used to show the geographical data. Okay, then moving on, what are the products? We have seen the orders that were raised, like your ranging from 2016 to 2019, 4 years. But then what were the products that were being ordered? Product ID, okay, which category the product belongs to. There are 3 categories over here: furniture, office supplies, and technology. Then subcategory. For each category, you have got 3 to 4 subcategories. So overall, around 17 subcategories are there. 4 categories, 17 subcategories. And then you have your product name. Okay. For each ID, you will have product name, right? And then the most important 4 numbers, which all are very much curious about to know. What is the sales that has the sales or revenue that was earned per order, the quantity that was even as the units sold for the, as in if you see here, the product over here is bookcases, as in 2 units of bookcases has been ordered. And any discount was provided? No discount as of now. And but then what was the profit that was earned? It's around $41. Okay, these four are the main uh, analysis. The rest of the columns that we are given, the rest of the details are the supporting ones. The main ones that we anyone wants to know about how the sales is happening, how the business is performing, you are going to see these four of them, the main columns or the main values in this whole data set. And this particular person I have added over here using a VLOOKUP. You can see here. What was it? There's a second sheet over here, orders we just saw. The second sheet over here is all about people, as in 4 regions, 4 salesperson. Okay. So what I did is I did bring the salesperson detail from this people to my orders. Okay, so that I can even analyze how much revenue was generated by each salesperson. I can know that. Okay, just to look at look at the data from that angle, or to analyze, let me say, to analyze the sales or my numerics as per my salesperson. I have just added it using my VLOOKUP. Lookup functions we have seen in our earlier modules. Okay, so let's move on. Now, this is our data set. Now, based on this, we are going to build a pivot table. Pivot table, I just told you that it's a summarization tool, as in it's just going to summarize this large data set. How is it possible? Or how is it going to do? Now, say, for example, we have just seen this person I have added over here using VLOOKUP. There are 4 persons, one for each region. So if I am being asked to find out what is the total revenue or sales that was generated by each of this salesperson, if you don't have a knowledge about pivot table, first thing that you might do is you're just going to sum up. We have seen sum if functions in our earlier modules. So I might be using sum if that is summing my sales column if the person is one by one, like your Cassandra or Anna and so on, right? Or maybe Kelly or Chuck, each one of them. But then I have to write 4 sum if functions, Excel built-in functions. Definitely, it's going to involve a good lot of effort, good lot of time and effort is going to put in over there. But the same question can be handled very easily with the help of a pivot table. And let me show you that. I'm just going to select that entire data of mine. Okay. Once done, I'll go to this insert tab, and now to the leftmost option which is given here is your pivot table. See, easily arrange and summarize complex data in a pivot table. For information, you can double click a value to see which detailed values make up the summarized total. Yes, we can see that. We'll get on to that. But I'm going to see that there's a table or a range, as in you have an Excel table or a mere range of cells. Either of them you can use. I'll go for that only. Here it's in a range format. So it just tells me from which sheet and that the range. And next, that's the data for my pivot table. Next question over here is choose where do you want the pivot table to be placed. Do you want it in a new worksheet or in existing? Now, new worksheet, we don't need to mention the location. New worksheet, by default, the location will be A3 cell. And with an existing worksheet, when you go, you can just mention the exact location from where you want to place your pivot table. Okay, as of now, I'll go for new worksheet because already good lot of data is available here. So I'll go for that. And only when we are dealing with the Power Query area, Power Query area is a data transformation tool, and on to that area, and as well, if I am planning to even build a data model, we've got 3 sheets over here. I can form a data model. I can create the relationships between these three tables using the common columns, and then our data model will be ready. So if I want to add this data to that data model, okay, I can do that. But as of now, I'm not going to the Power Query area or my Power Pivot. Data modeling is all about the Power Pivot area. But those areas I'm not going there. We'll come in a later module. Okay, so as of now, the data I've mentioned, and where do I want to place my pivot table? I'll just say, okay. See, the background or the foundation of my pivot table is ready. I would have to build a report by dragging in these fields over here. Now, how are we going to drag? Now, one thing is the number of columns that we had onto our data set, those columns are going to be my pivot table fields. All of them are available here. Okay. And you have got 4 areas. You can see your rows, columns, values, and filters. Now, by dragging these columns to these 4 areas, we are going to build in the power, as in we're going to build in the pivot table report, which is nothing but a summarization tool. Okay, I'll come back to this question which we had in mind, as in per salesperson, what was the revenue generated? I told you if we don't have a knowledge about pivot table, I would have to go using a sum if, separate sum if for each one of the salesperson. But here it's just going to make things much easier for us. I've got my person. I'm going to move it to the rows. You can see here. Whatever column I move into the rows, the values of the column are going to be my row labels. And then I've got my sales value. Now, sales value is a numeric column. Okay, I would have to move it to the values only. And you can see a summation sign over here as a sigma symbol. So any numeric value that you move into the values area, it will get summarized by default, as in the summarization or the aggregation is going to be SUM. Okay, let me just make it a bit bigger so that you all can see it. So within few button clicks, I am able to find out per salesperson what is the sales value. I didn't have to write any code, as in I didn't have to input any Excel function for finding these values. Just using my pivot table, I could make it possible. That too within few button clicks. No code, no Excel function really there. Okay, so it just makes whole thing easy. So see, it has just summarized for me. It has summarized the sales data as per my salesperson. Okay. Well, I need not stop here. I can remove my person. I can bring in my region. I can do that. It's the same thing that I'm going to see. Okay. Uh, yes. Now that's my basic pivot table that I can build. I showed you based on salesperson. Just I swapped in, like I removed this per salesperson. I brought in the region. So region wise data is also available with me. So either ways, if I hadn't known about pivot table, or if I hadn't known about how to use a pivot table, I would be writing multiple sum if functions. But then with the help of pivot table, things are much more easier. Okay, so that's a basic pivot table. How to create one, I've just shown you. Okay, let's come to the grouping data part. How to group. Okay, for that, I'll remove the region. Let me bring in my order date. Okay, so my row labels are now the dates, and I've got my sum of sales. For each date, the revenue that was generated. Now, instead of seeing this, like if you see here, it's your day wise. Per day, what is the sales that was generated? Instead of this, I want to show, moreover, we know it's your 4 years are there. And if you see, it's a very pretty long one. See, almost 12, see, 1236 rows are there. It's going to take much longer time for us to analyze what has been the revenue for each of the year, or maybe onto any particular quarter and so on. It will take a good lot of time for us. So the best option is I want to group this date as I want to, maybe I can years and months, or maybe years and quarters. I can group them. How? Currently, I am onto one of the row labels. Right click, you come over here to the option called group. Okay, the moment you come to the group, you can see first two as auto, like the starting date and the ending date. Those are kind of auto populated from our data set. And how do you want to group by? Now, there are two options, like one, first three is based on time. The last four is based on your date. Okay, but then I could do one thing, like based on months and years. I would suggest to combine the years with months, like months with years. Don't go for month alone. Like why I'm saying for don't go for month alone means when I just do this, it will show me, okay, Jan, we'll just see only 12 of them. See, we don't know, okay, this Jan is not an individual year value, it's the combined one from all the 4 years. This is not going to give a clear picture to us. So instead, I want to include the months as well. So that brings us a very much clear picture as to in 2016, the 12 months, each of the months, this was the revenue that was generated. Yeah, or the sales that was really earned. Okay, so that's the basic grouping that we can do. Okay, now instead of my months, I could do based on my quarter. I could just remove months, I can bring in my quarter. That's also possible. Yeah, so instead of 12 rows for each year, we are going to see 4 rows for each year. This is also being done. You can really use this. Okay, so let me go back to my month as of now. Okay, now that's the basic grouping that I can do. This is how things, I mean, the grouping makes the the data analyzation much easier for us. Okay, now I want to do few things like let me, okay, there are some charts and slices and all. Now let me show you that. Now the chart which is built out of a pivot table is called a pivot chart. Okay, now whenever you build a pivot table, you're going to get two tabs over here. First is your pivot table analyze, which you see good lot of there. This grouping option is there. Then you would have like each and every, like all the basic formatting options that you could do with a pivot table. You can do, you can in fact insert your slicers and timelines. I'm coming to there only, but along with that I have an option called your pivot chart. So if I select that, pivot chart is built from pivot table, but then charts can be built without the help of pivot table also. In fact, there are few charts which don't support the pivot table data. Okay, there are a few of them. We'll come to it in a later section. Now over here, I've got my date intervals are there. No? So whenever date intervals are involved in any of the analysis, it's better that we go for a line chart. You can see over here line. So that's a line wherein onto the x-axis you're going to have your dates, any intervals or the entire date, and onto the y-axis it could be any of our value that we are trying to analyze. Line chart is basically used for analyzing trends, like what is the changes in the value over a period of time. Now by seeing this we can understand how the sales is performing. Is there any seasonality, or is there any specific months when the sales is really booming up, or are there any months when the sales is very low, and so on. We can get to know that. Okay, you can see here the 4 years. Okay, somewhat similar like your in the last quarter, the sales is really good, and the first quarter it's not so good. We can really understand that. But seeing 4 years, okay, at one go, you are able to understand the same say, like symmetry. For 1 year, if the curve is the same for the next year also, yeah, the symmetry is there. We can get to know that. But over here, I can add something called my slicers or my timeline. What are they? Okay, let me first come to timeline. Now, timeline is a slicer, okay, but then it is specifically for dates only. Okay, I can show you the definition one more time here. See, use a timeline to filter dates interactivity. So basically, if you want to filter the dates, yes, go for it. Timelines make it faster and easier to select time periods in order to filter pivot tables, pivot charts, and cube functions. So let me insert a timeline. If at all the data set that you're working with doesn't have a date column, you cannot add a timeline. That's the main thing. Okay, I'm going to pick up my order date and just say, okay, see, I got my timeline. It says all periods. So let me come here, this small drop down. I don't want to filter based on months. I want to filter it based on years. You can see four of them. Let me pick up 2016. I see only 2016. Yeah, so that's the filter that I can apply at my year level with the help of a timeline. And whichever year that you're selecting, I can see the value over here. Yeah, I can do that very easily. I can understand that. Okay, so that's a timeline. Okay, but then you may even introduce a slicer over here. I'll go back, like when we inserted a pivot table, we got a pivot table analyze tab and a design tab. When we are inserting a pivot chart, we are getting a pivot chart analyze, design, and a format. Okay, we can use them. Okay, we'll get to this more in details later. But then over here, okay, I inserted a timeline. Good. What about my slicer? Let me pick up. I'll do one thing. I'll pick up region and just say, okay. Slicer is a common one. You can use it for any of, you can insert a slicer with any of our columns from the data set. Okay, let me just change a bit. As of now, it's one column. Slicer formatting tab is opened up for me. I'll make it 4 so that it's there in the single line. I can see it as a single line. Yeah. So it's 2019, fine. But if I pick up central, see, it is now going to change. East, south, and west. Okay, so that's a slicer which I could use to filter values related to any column. And my timeline is specifically to filter dates. And by using your timelines and slicers, my charts become interactive. Okay, they do become. Okay, so but then one more thing is hopefully you all are noticing that factor that as and when I am applying my slicers or my timeline, not only my pivot chart is interacting, my pivot table is also interacting as well. See, it's showing me 17. I did pick up 17. It shows me 17 and east also. Of course, we don't have any detail which says as east. I could do one small thing over here. I come to the pivot table analyze, switch on my field list. I'll move in my region. Okay, maybe region to the rows only. I could have moved it to the columns, definitely possible. But as of now, I'm doing for the rows. See, currently it's your east has been selected from this region slicer. Yes, I'm seeing that same thing over there. So not only see, and it shows me at the bottom that is central and 2017. Now it's central in 2018. So my slicers and my timelines, they make my charts and pivot tables. That is my pivot charts and pivot tables interactive. They're definitely going to do that. Okay, and difference between a slicer and a timeline is slicers can be introduced. Slicers are basically used to slice and dice the data, as in to filter the data. Okay, now I can use any column to insert a slicer, but I need a date column specifically to create my timelines. Okay, that's the difference. But the purpose of using a timeline or a slicer is the same. But only thing is timelines work only on dates, slices, any one, doesn't matter. You can pick up any column to add in a slicer. Okay. So we saw grouping, we saw my slicers and timelines. Okay, what about a few more pivot charts, maybe one or two? Okay, we did see a line. Okay, I'll insert one more pivot table. Okay, I'll go, it's already selected, the data is selected. I'll go for yes, new worksheet. Now over here, I want to add region-wise sales, or maybe let's say region-wise profit. I'll make it a bit bigger for everyone to see clearly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there are four rows over here, each showing the profit for each region. Now I am onto my pivot table. Let me come to the analyze, pick up the pivot table. That is your pivot chart. It shows me cluster column. Fine, but I want to add in a pie. Why pie? Pie chart is basically to show the percent contribution. What do I mean by that? Now here I am seeing the absolute value of the profit for each region. Now at times this absolute value is too big a number. I can see one of them. In fact, West has gone to 1 lakh. Now, this is a practice data set, but if at all, when we are working with real-time data sets, it may happen that we are seeing the profit or your sales in millions. Especially when you go for your sales, definitely you're going to see it in millions and billions. It takes a good few seconds to even decode such a big number. Okay, yeah, it takes, as in I can say, it takes time for us to digest such a big number. So instead of that, if I can show, I can just convert, or let me say, I can convert this each of this absolute value as a percentage of the total value. I can really plot that will be much more better, and that will be nothing but my pie chart, because pie chart is to show the percent contribution as an individual value as a percent of the overall value. Okay, I'll just say, okay, you can see here there are four of them, four regions, four slices. This is triangular one is called, each one is called a slice. And the west over here, that has got the area of that slice is the maximum. You can see it here, and it says 38%. Okay, and it's 1.84. I can do one small thing over here. We've got some chart elements. Okay, chart title is fine. I might just put my region wise, like how much each region is contributing to the overall, or what is the percent contribution of each region to the overall value. A chart title get me anything, we can customize it. Okay, legend, say suppose here there are four regions, four colors. Let me as of now remove it, but removal doesn't mean I'm not going to include it in my data labels. I am going to include, these are the absolute values. Let me customize my data labels. Okay, it says best to fit, or maybe I'll say outside end is good only. But let me go to more options because I want to include that region value also. Okay, value. Now I don't want to show the value because the primary reason for even adding a pie chart is to show the percentage. So percentage and my category name. See, instead of my legends, I can just add in over here a small data label which includes both the category name as well as the percentage. Things are much more easier for me to understand. It says very clearly that my west is the highest contributor and my central is the least with a 12%. Is central the least? Oh, yes. Yeah, are we good? Okay, moving on. Uh, hmm. Yeah, that is 39 as the least. Maybe there are too many decimal numbers. If you feel that's kind of not making things much clearer for us, I can come right click and I choose the number format. Okay, I'll pick up currency. Maybe it could be a dollar also. Yeah, English United States, and just two of them, or two, maybe one is also enough. Yeah, see. And to even have one more picture, I can sort the regions as per the sum of profit. And I just say, okay, yeah, descending. Now it comes off very clearly to me how things are moving on. Okay, so that's a pie chart built out of my pivot table, as in pivot chart built out of my pivot table. Okay, last one. One more, like the three basic charts I'm doing. One is my line, which is basically to analyze the trends. Second is to know the percent contribution. What about the third one? Okay, let me add in one more pivot table. Okay, I want to know the subcategory wise what is the profit. So profit subcategory. Okay, and I'll change the font. Okay. It's too big. Okay. 14 is good. Okay. And let me also change the number format over here. Again, I'll go to currency, pick up my English US, that's dollars, and maybe one decimal place. Okay, what do we see? There are some negative values also. So, as in, we have incurred losses also. There are three subcategories which are incurring losses. I am not sorting the profit column. I am actually sorting my subcategories based on my profit. That's how over here, if you go to the filter menu, if you do just a sort A to Z or Z to A, my subcategory is a text column. So the text values, the sorting order is dictionary and the reverse dictionary. I don't want that. I want to sort my subcategories based on my profit value, and that too a descending one. So see, a sort subcategory by sum of profit in descending order. I just say okay. You can see copiers is the maximum profitable and my tables is the least profitable of all. Now when you have this table, this pivot table, I want to create a pivot chart out of this. Okay, that will be nothing but my column or bar chart. That's a clustered column. Okay, I can have this. You can see my data labels for few of them. It's actually coinciding with my bars or my columns also. Or I could do one thing. I'll come here to this design tab, change chart type. I want to change this column to a bar. Bar is this. See, yeah, I'll make some adjustments for you all to make it see it clearly. There are a few tabs over here. No, those field buttons and all are not necessary for us. Just come over here, click here, and this total is also not needed. Okay, what about the labels here? I actually don't need it. Those are my x-axis. Y-axis I need, but my x-axis I can get rid of. At the same time, if I'm removing one, I should add my data labels. I should do that. Okay, now I'll make it a bit bigger. Yeah, and okay, let it be as of now outside in, but Okay, it shows value and this. Maybe I could do one small thing. I could introduce the category one over here, but actually that is not necessary. Okay, never mind. Let it be like this only. No issues. Okay. Okay. What about the colors over here? Now my of them, let me change them. Mm, okay, I'll bring it here. No, I don't want a pattern also. Okay, I'll go for a solid only. Solid as of now, I'm going for green. Invert it. Okay. For the negative one, I actually want to have a, not a white, a red. Yes. Okay, maybe for instance, let me switch off my data labels so that it is not going to, yeah. And maybe my axis only I'll introduce because I don't want it to make it it should be clearly visible to us, right? So let me do that. So you can see here my tables, bookcases, and supplies are the ones which are incurring losses. Rest of them are my profitable ones. Maybe I want to change this back to a bar, that's, I mean, a column, that's also possible, like this. See now. Okay, but then bar and column chart or column chart, why should we use it? Or what is the purpose behind using it? Now, bar or column chart is generally used to compare my values across various categories. Now, the word category is a generic word. It could be anything. Here it's a subcategory, is that category one. It could be region, it could be salesperson, it could be my products, and so on. It could be any of those things. Okay. But basically, column chart or my bar chart is used to compare my values across various categories. Okay. So specifically, I picked up the profit to just show you this losses, just to show them in red color, make those things clear. I did use it. So there are three basic charts that you have learned, three basic charts that we build out of our pivot table. One was your line chart, which was used to analyze my trends. Yeah, I'll remove them to make it a bit bigger. Okay. Then we introduced slicers and timelines. Then I showed you a pie chart, which is nothing but the percent contribution of individual value to the overall. And now we have seen a clustered column and a bar, of course. All three have been built from the data of a pivot table. There's one more thing that we need to know about here is your calculated fields. Rest I've completed, but then what is calculated field? Okay, I'll do one small thing. Let me um, okay, introduce one more or insert one more pivot table over here. Okay, I want person wise. Okay, I have my person onto the last, I believe. Yeah, person. And I'm going to keep my years and months. That grouping is still there. That grouping is very much part of my pivot table field list. And then I'm going to pick up my sales and quantity. Because quantity may be used or you can even leave that quantity. Maybe I'll remove it. Why is it that I'm going to use this? I'll just change the font. Give me a moment. Yeah. Now see here, I am seeing something of a tree structure is what I'm feeling over here. Tree structure as in first is person. Inside that one you're seeing the year and then under the year, the 12 months over here. Now what is it that I want to do over here is for the calculated fields, I want to add a new column which says as bonus. Okay. Now that bonus is going to be based on the sales value. Now, if for any month, if the salesperson has generated a revenue more than 10,000, he's going to earn a bonus, which is nothing but 5% of the sales value. And if the person has earned less than 10,000, no bonus. And this particular column or detail that I'm going to add is through a calculation, hence the name calculated field. Okay, now if I am very much inside the pivot table. I'll come to this pivot table, analyze, not this. I'll come here, calculated field. I'll select that. Okay, I want to give the name as I told you, bonus. And what is the formula? I'm going to use the if function. Okay, if function, as in I want to put the condition based on my sales value. Double click. So sales is greater than 10,000. He's going to get a bonus of 5% of my sales value. Now this bonus even is being calculated only when the sales value is greater than 10, otherwise not. So if at all the sales is less than 10,000, no bonus. That's it. I'll just say add and say okay. Now calculated field is very much part of my pivot table, and you will see here as a field in my pivot table, this field list, it's now part of the field list as well. Okay, so whenever the person is earning more than or is generating more than 10,000, he's getting a bonus of 5% of that. Maybe we can just use the calculator here to just cross check whether it's doing the right or wrong. Okay. 5%. 5% means 5 by 100 as in 0.05 into 11,008.898. Okay. See, that's the value that we have gotten. So that's so basically for Anna in the year 2016, she has earned a bonus in March, July, August, September, November, and December. 6 months. Rest 6 months, it didn't cross 10,000. So no bonus. Okay. And when you're adding a calculated field to a pivot table, you are going to see that the pivot table is now part of that field list, and it gets very much, when it's part of the field list, I can see that very much onto my pivot table also. Okay, so that's all about our pivot tables. We did see how to create a pivot table, how to group in the data, how to insert a chart out of the data from pivot table. Those are called pivot charts. We saw line, we saw pie, and we saw your column or bar. Okay. And of course, the slicers also I introduced, slicers and timelines I did introduce. Okay. And my calculated fields was the last one that I just discussed now, which was the example of bonus, which is based on the sales value being greater than 10,000. If it is greater than 10,000, he is going to earn a bonus, which is 5% of the sales value, otherwise not. Okay. So that's it for this module. I'll meet you in the next module. Till then, keep learning and keep practicing. Bye.